Hello and welcome to my dramatic reading series for counseling and psychotherapy theories in context and practice. My name is John Sommers-Flanagan. I'm going to be reading some today from Sigmund Freud's Civilization and its Discontents. It's a short reading, maybe kind of short, but I want to focus on Freud and spirituality in particular today. Freud was not ever really considered to be a friend of religion. So here's a little excerpt from our counseling and psychotherapy theories textbook. That's it right here. In the section on spirituality, we wrote, Freud was no fan of religion. He often referred to himself as a, quote, godless Jew, unquote. Gay, 1978, wrote that Freud advertised his unbelief every time he could find or make an opportunity. Freud viewed religious beliefs as irrational, projective, and regressive. And in return, of course, most religious people are no fans of Freud. And so we can see here that there's some animosity or negativity that Freud has toward religion. But I wanted to read an excerpt from the first couple of pages of Civilization and its Discontents, because it kind of speaks to a different viewpoint that Freud had. He's now talking about a very honored, respected friend of his. And he wrote, I had sent him, the friend, my small book that treats religion as an illusion. And he answered that he entirely agreed with my judgment upon religion, but that he was sorry I had not properly appreciated the true source of religious sentiments. This, he says, consists in a peculiar feeling, which he himself is never without, which he finds confirmed by many others, and which he may suppose is present in millions of people. It is a feeling, and this is what his friend experiences, which he would like to call a sensation of eternity. A feeling of something limitless, unbounded, as it were, oceanic. This feeling, he adds, is purely subjective fact. That's interesting terminology, subjective fact. Not an article of faith. It brings with it no assurance of personal immortality, but it is the source of the religious energy which is seized upon by the various churches and religious systems, directed by them into particular channels, and doubtless also exhausted by them. A little critique there. Side note by Freud. One may, he thinks, rightly call oneself religious on the ground of this oceanic feeling alone, even if one rejects every belief and every illusion. Again, Freud and his negativity toward religion coming out there. But this is the part that I think is really interesting, and you probably noticed I have my Freud action figure here who's listening in just to make sure I'm on point. So he goes on to write, the views expressed by the friend whom I so much honor, and who himself once praised the magic of illusion in a poem, caused me no small difficulty. I cannot discover this oceanic feeling in myself. It is not easy to deal scientifically with feelings. One can attempt to describe their physiological signs where this is not possible, and I'm afraid that the oceanic feeling too will defy this kind of characterization. Nothing remains but to fall back on the ideational content which is most readily associated with the feeling. If I have understood my friend correctly, he means the same thing by it as the consolation offered by an original and somewhat eccentric dramatist to his hero who is facing a self-inflicted death. We cannot fall out of this world. That is to say, it is a feeling of an insoluble bond, of being one with the external world as a whole. I may remark that to me this seems rather in the nature of an intellectual perception, which is not, it is true, without an accompanying feeling tone, but only such as would be present with any other act of thought of equal range. From my own experience, I could not convince myself of the primary nature of such a feeling. But this gives me no right to deny that it does in fact occur in other people. The only question is whether it is being correctly interpreted. And so I think we see here Freud struggling with the fact that he doesn't experience that kind of oceanic spiritual connection that his friend, who he honors so much, does experience. And yet, and this is, I think, an important point, and I think Freud is probably happy that I'm mentioning it, he doesn't rule out the possibility that just because he can't experience, it's possible that others certainly can. And so that's the end of my Freudian reading today in just under 6 minutes. See ya.